2. Yeah, welcome everybody to the Sound Guild. We're gonna turn this music down and get to the topic. I'm your host, Kingsley Manasa. Alright. Let's see if we can get up on the screen here. Alright, there we are. What's good, everybody? Welcome to the Sound Guild. I'm your host, Kingsley Manasa. You know what I'm saying? And, this is a podcast that basically, like I said, discuss beats, rhymes, and life. Just to keep it general. And, dude, today's topic, like I said, is about the false narrative of black on black violence. And why do I want to talk about this? Well, because as I scroll through things like my social media feed and I look around, I still see people still sharing this shit as making some type of counter argument towards like when black folks talk about the establishment and how, systemic racism, institutional racism, you know what I mean, and things like that, and social injustices and things like that, and how we actually pinpoint things in terms of racial capitalism and things like that as being the factors, and that we as Africans in here, in America are oppressed here as well as abroad, you know what I mean? So just kind of want to bring those things up, you know what I mean? I think it's important because I still see even people amongst my peer group still share this type of false narrative as if it's some kind of counter argument to basically say in hindsight like, oh, we need to get our shit together. So I like to debunk that narrative and basically talk about that. So let's see here. One of the things here is that the concept of saying that black on black crime, is something to like address as a counter argument towards, white hegemony, white aggression, you know what I mean? And particularly when it comes to talking about police brutality, because this is always sometimes the counter argument in terms of even politicians as well as on the individual, thought process when you hear within your community or in like white communities when they speak about things as far as like trying to literally make a legit argument, like as if it's like really rational to sit here and say, well, you're talking about the white cop fucking killing the black dude. Well, what about all the shit goes on in your fucking neighborhood, all the shit in Chicago or wherever the fuck they name towns and shit like that. Not to mention really that Chicago is still like considered one of the safest places to live like in the United States. So like I said, it's all about, it's false narratives, propaganda, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes you gotta ask yourself, where is this shit coming from? Is it coming from the left, right, center, fucking, up, down, A, B, select, start. You feel me? But, so, just to kind of, like, go in on a little bit about, like, this bullshit. So, just to kind of lay a little bit of facts, you know what I mean? So, one of the things that is said, in terms of black on black crime, is that it's presented as if, in a way, as if people never thought, okay, well, what the hell is white on white crime? Is it something where, it makes people feel as if black on black crime is just like, oh man, it's so fucking crazy what's going on. They just keep killing each other. So let's go over some real hard statistics. And this is coming from the root.com, which is the FBI crime data site. If you guys want to check it out, you can. I'm not going to share that, just telling you where it is. You can see it for yourself. And basically here it shows that, amongst black people, that 91.1% of black victims of homicide were killed by other black people, obviously. And 83.5% of whites were killed by other whites. So this is essentially white on white crime. Why don't we hear about this? You know, and so anyways, those are just like some hard facts. So we're talking about a 6% difference. And then that 6% is not something clearly that you're going to exploit and say, well, look at that 6%. That's the fucking, you know, because clearly it's showing that it's all about proximity. Amongst this nation, you know what I'm saying? It's segregated. So it's like it's built off of it's predicated off of racism. So it's like it's segregated. So everybody is going to commit violence amongst, within their proximity. It's common sense. You know what I mean? It's just that media and propaganda has this way of making shit up where it's just like we roll with it, we roll with it. You know what I'm saying? If you're racist, you know what I'm saying, that white pathology kicks in on you, you're going to roll with any fucking thing. And that's just what it is. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, so that's just one thing that I like to point out there. In terms of, according to the FBI data, you clearly can see that there is no big difference in terms of black folks committing crime amongst each other, as well as white folks, as well as brown folks, as well as whoever. You know what I'm saying? It's all about proximity, as well as living in a racist society like America and everything that Western colonialism has established. So, now there's this also this idea of, like I said, that whole black on black crime shit brings up this. It's like this whole notion of like just black folks are innately just violent amongst each other. It's that whole thought process, what they did to justify the slavery, as well as the slaughtering and the genocide of the natives, of the indigenous folks here, the Americas, by simply saying that they were savage people, you know what I mean, and not human. So it's like, if you can create the propaganda to create a group to say, hey, they're not human, based off of these capitalist principles that we have of Western society, you know what I mean, then basically it justifies, to create a law to commit genocide on a people, you know what I'm saying, or to enslave a people, you know what I'm saying. So with saying that shit, you know what I'm saying, you go into now where people really create this kind of, because we're socialized into racism, that white people really do believe, and others that, like I said, that is status quo, believe that, black people just got this thing, we're just violent. And, in some ways, it's weird because being a black person, you're only raised by things that you see, that you physically see when you're a child. So if you did see some violence, and then you got the media saying shit like, oh, look at that, this is shit over here, then you'll be like, oh, damn, it is fucked up where I'm at. But you never seem to think to yourself, well, how is it with them white folks over there? Are they doing drugs? They got some people over there beating their, wives up, and people out there stealing and shit like that and killing each other. Of course they do. As according to the stats, 83.5% of them do it amongst each other. There's not much of a difference. So now, if folks want to go into the fact of like, well, in certain black communities, you know what I mean, like shit's pretty bad. So I think when most black folks, you know what I mean, like we come from a upbringing that was different from white folks, you know what I'm saying, like economic wise, you know what I'm saying, like at least I can speak for myself and for my family members, you know what I'm saying, like I had some aunties that lived, you know what I'm saying, in the projects. I had some aunties that, lived in houses, and I had, all that, you know what I mean, and whatever, my upbringing, I lived in apartments and shit like that and whatnot. And, times where I did, live up in a house, it doesn't fucking matter, you know what I mean? We just bounce around, you know what I mean? So those things don't really matter. And to be honest with you, don't even know why the fuck I even really brought that up. But it's just to give an idea of the difference in economic cases when people bring up shit like, well, the ownership and housing and things like that. And clearly, this is kind of one of the factors that I bring up. So there is a reason why I brought it up, because of the housing segregation. You know what I mean? Like, historically, you know what I mean, amongst, when it comes to housing and things like that, blacks were not granted the same benefits and things as whites, when it came to land and housing and things like that, as well as even something as, let's say, coming out of the world wars, when black soldiers were fighting in the same wars, were receiving the same benefits from the GI Bill. So throughout these economic breakthroughs that, like, U.S. has had, coming out of things like the Depression and shit, and they're fucking making weapons and funding militaries, from both ends, and, manufacturing shit. Black folks really didn't get the full-on benefits from that, you know what I'm saying? And in fact, when they came home from things like the war, they weren't able to, like, move into the same housing, even though they did qualify and might have had the same finances, as their whites, but they were still allowed. So these are just historical factors on things that when people want to say black on black violence, on how a government was able to implement policy to literally, like, set a standard, on, like, creating redlining to where certain businesses would not even develop in certain black neighborhoods, and it would just kind of keep a black neighborhood underdeveloped. And if a neighborhood is underdeveloped and no businesses are coming there, then obviously schools and education is not going to thrive either. You know what I'm saying? So we know this by seeing this, but then sometimes we don't really register it because we're always spoon-fed this shit about, what it's like on the other side based off the white standard. Within a capitalist society. So, and within this capitalist society, we tend to look at that as like that's what we need to strive for in order to be successful. And so we tend to look at our neighborhoods as like trash or slum, or like, yeah, this is just not what I want to be around, you know what I mean, and whatever. And then we look on the other side as like a sign of success. So it's easy for oppressed people to kind of give in to some of the propaganda that is, fed to them, because within capitalism, materialism, and consumerism, it's like we literally, our success is based off the things that we have and like these financial accomplishments and stuff, not really like our character, or and who we are, on the inside. It's more like what we project on the outside. Kind of why the social media thing kind of works out for a lot of fucking people, because it's like very superficial and it's just what you project on the outside, not really what you're doing on the inside. You know what I'm saying? Shit made me sound like on some contradiction shit. Anyways, because look what I'm doing. Anyways, but try to keep it as real as possible with you guys, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm shooting this shit up in the studio room, dude, because I want to share ideology. I don't want to share material consumerism, me against the world, believe in what I'm saying, me, type of behavior, or I'm a leader. I don't believe in leadership. I believe in guidance. Everybody, needs guidance to some degree. They don't need leaders and people being followers and all this other shit and who we are, and the dominant and the non-dominant and alpha male, all this other bullshit. What we need is there's guidance. You know what I mean? There are people out there, humans out there, that know a little more than you do, and if you're humble enough and willing to learn, then yes, they can guide you into something, and hopefully you can guide others. And that's how I see it. But anyways, so we kind of went off on a little tangent, but it was just to kind of give a whole understanding of this black on black crime shit, because those things, those factors and stuff like that, talking about things like GI Bill and housing segregation, redlining, all those things, those are prime factors of why, if you want to talk about the violence or the things that you see due to poverty and those conditions, due to being oppressed people under a racist society, under white hegemony and aggression, then yes, those are facts, right? So, yeah. So, and the other thing too that we tend to also forget is the whole thing that you know with those numbers that I mentioned, there's this thing too where, let's say, when a police officer kills a black person, right? We have this thing where uh, the importance of this is because amongst black on black violence per se, when a black person kills a black person, okay, more like 9 times out of 10, dude, like they're gonna do a max life sentence and shit like that. They're gonna throw the book at them. You know what I mean? It's because that's the way law is. Or no one is asking for someone to get privileged to kill somebody. But what I'm saying is though is that when a white cop officer kills a black person, they never fucking justice is never served the right way. You know what I mean? And it's always they're never found guilty. So that's also a fact on why this argument is so important and why it's detrimental for black people or even other people to take on that false narrative on black crime, or to say, hey, well, what we got to do for about ourselves. You know what I mean? It's like, man, and so yeah, so just that's also another thing too, where it's historically it's like when these white officers do things towards black unarmed black folks, you know what I mean? It's never justified, but they never found guilty and shit. So, um, you know what I'm saying? We can also talk about that too on another topic too, like further down the line. And also to conclude, about all this too is that there's also this thing too, just to conclude everything that the counter argument towards this thing is that a black on black violence is that people would say, well, what do black folks do in their own neighborhoods? What do they do in their own communities? And it's like, man, historically, from all the movements historically that's been led through black leadership or whatever, or say black guidance. You know what I'm saying? From we know all the names. You know what I'm saying, that we could list. You know what I'm saying, and even to the current movements too, like the Stop the Violence movement, all that shit. Like there's so many movements out there, and I mean, and we as black folks in our community, we knew that like we know that our neighborhoods, you know what I'm saying, wasn't filled with just negative people. We knew that there were people always trying to do shit to better, you know what I mean, to better the neighborhood and to better conditions, to try to look for work for people and try to, get people in jobs. I know, within my upbringing, I used to always see, folks coming around, whether it be my uncles or cousins or whoever, come around and be like, yo, man, so and so and them, hiring over there. Go over there, bro. Get an app. I'll put a word out for you. You know what I mean? But it's always been that type of collective approach about who we are as a people. You know what I mean? And that stuff radiates throughout the community. So that whole saying about what do we do for our own, that is, you can debunk that right out of the way and just throw that shit out. Throw that out the window, because that right there is there. You can just go through the historic record and see numerous organizing, organizers, activists, everything, to justify that. So yeah, so just concluding with that, just what I would say about all this is that education is the key, and where we're headed right now, whether or not if the revolution will be in our lifetime or in our children's lifetime or whatever, the important thing is the ideology and it's the education. You know what I'm saying? Jumping out into the public and stamping yourself as a freedom fighter and all that stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong. Creating movement is so important. It's key. But also making sure that within movement that the ideology is intact. And when it comes to anti-capitalism, you know what I mean, and anti-blackness, and that these things are coming through the forefront, and things like gender equality and things like that, that these things are part of the forefront. Um, and progressive, left side, left minded type of thought and movement. So, with that being said, why I make these type of vlogs and things like that, because ideology is important. You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't want to go out there and fight your battles without any real strategy. You know what I'm saying? You won't want to just fight your battles just off of pure emotions. You know what I'm saying? It has to be a collective overall strategy. So with that being said, what I'm saying, like, things have to be pretty tactical with your approach, and not really just driven off of just pure emotion and drive, because, which is good, because let that kind of be the way your energy, or let's say if there is violence, to put that into education, because anybody can fight, and commit violence amongst other people. You know what I'm saying? But what goes on in here, and coming out of the fight, and if you don't have the strategy of what to do next, then you're pretty much just kind of, you're like a rebel without a cause. You know what I mean? You're just, eventually you'll start perpetuating the same shit that got you in the stuff that you were fighting against, because you didn't really have a strategy to undo the things, or unlearn the things that got you here. You know what I mean? Into this mess. So, with that being said, let's leave it there, people. And I would like to play a song on the outro here. And it's an instrumental. The instrumental that you heard earlier was a beat that I made. I've been making like this lo-fi hip hop type shit lately. So, hope you guys can enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? I'm just gonna keep it 100% with you guys. You know what I'm saying? That's out there. This stuff is not. It's not like mixed well or mastered. You know what I'm saying? It's just like fresh out the studio beats. You know what I'm saying? And but yeah, sometime I'm probably gonna release like a lo-fi, small little like EP, like a few beats. Instrumentals. And I might rap on a few or something like that. But I'll probably be releasing that like next year sometime. And also, if you, and like the way I do with the music stuff, like I just post it up on our website at kingsandmanasa.com, and it'll be there for everybody that have access to it. You know what I mean? No, like, it would be like no charging and shit like that. It's just music, just up there. Just grab music, listen to it, whatever. You know what I'm saying? And it's just yeah. So and in that website too, there will be some writing, some vlogs and blogs, talking about similar issues like this. And also, I encourage those that if you do get to that site, share your emailing address, and maybe share your thoughts and opinions on things like the forums and stuff. I might have some stuff up there, and we'll be keeping some news updated. We'll also be keeping vlogs like this, maybe going about twice a week or so. And but yeah, in a capitalist society, don't want to keep things pressured like that. Don't want to keep things just all about work. So, people have that thing where they call self-care. That's also another topic I want to talk about, that too, is the difference between self-care and narcissism. So yeah, when people think that a form of self-care is, it's like, getting a haircut, or fucking buying like a pair of $200 jeans or something like that, is like self-care. So we'll talk about that, the difference between that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, is it self-care or is it narcissism? Which one is it? I don't know. So anyways, we got a few things that's going to be coming up, dude, for the New Year's. You know what I'm saying? Whether or not, if I'll be posting another vlog from here to the New Year, those of you guys have a happy holiday and happy New Year. You know what I mean? For those that celebrate whatever you celebrate, or don't celebrate anything at all, it's all good with me, man. You know what I mean? So I think that's it. Let me get the hell out of here. All right, then, you guys. Peace, love, and strength. Until the next time. Once again, this is the Sound Guild discussing beats, rhymes, and life. And I'm your host, Kingsley Manasa. And you guys have a good one. Later. Well.